feel free to argue. And today we're going to discuss the intricacies of magical Pegasus economics. Because magical Pegasus economics is very important to understand if you want to see the brilliance of Obama's tax cut proposal. So, the first thing that you need to know about magical Pegasus economics is that no claim needs to be backed up by evidence. That's very important because as we go forward we could see that evidence can really mess with some of these claims. So it's very important to ignore all evidence. Alright, remember it's a belief system. It's not about facts. So, first thing that's important to know is that tax cuts for the wealthy do lead to jobs. Now I know, immediately the people who are not able to kind of leave their needs for facts behind will immediately start screaming about how we've been doing this for years, like over half a decade, and hasn't led to any job creation aside from like in China and India. Well, once again, those are facts, so you need to ignore those. So, let's move on. The second assertion is that the rich aren't doing well enough. They can't afford to have their income cut because they're not in a good place right now. Once again, these annoying fact people will start quoting from Bernie Sanders, treasonous speech before the Senate, talking about how, the 1%, the top 1% of earners now own more wealth than the bottom 98%, that the top 1% earn 23% of all the income in this country as much as the bottom 50%. The top 1% tripled their income since the 1970s, blah, 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 blah. You know how Bernie goes, I talked for 8 hours about this shit. Nobody was listening. Nobody cares. Come on, Bernie, give it a rest. Alright, so, those are those annoying facts, and they just have nothing to do with the actual condition of the rich. Because let me tell you something, if the rich were doing well enough, the economy would be great. And because the economy sucks, obviously the rich aren't doing well enough. Now, here's another important assertion. You can balance the budget by cutting revenue, because we know the Republicans especially care deeply about, getting the budget under control, and certainly they would never suggest anything could possibly have a negative impact on deficit reduction. So clearly, because the Republicans support this measure, that means that clearly it reduces the deficit. Now here's another important thing to be aware of. And this is, once again, this is where the magical part comes in. If business doesn't create jobs, as it hasn't, and government, due to shrinking revenues, etc., can't create jobs, then some third entity, a magical entity, will enter into the economy and start employing people. Stop asking for facts. Alright. Now, it's a belief system. So, your faith needs to be strong. Your faith will be questioned. There are polls out there. 70% of the people in the country disagree with magical Pegasus economics. They don't think it works, and honestly, they're a bit angry about it. But you know what? You need to stick to your guns. You have to say, this works because I believe it works, and it has lots of workiness to it, and it's super worksome. And you just stick to your guns, and you keep saying stuff like that, and people will believe you. Now, one of the more annoying arguments that I hear over and over, from people who are arguing against magical Pegasus economics, is that they talk about how people who are poor are going to be more likely to spend money, any additional money they get, than people who already have 4 homes and like a yacht and a Learjet. And all I can say to people like this is, why do you hate the rich so much? I think it's just a ridiculous position, because if you're going to talk about class warfare all the time, if you're just going to kind of lay everything at the feet of rich people, then it's going to be very hard to have a dialogue. And certainly we can't have any kind of dialogue about magical Pegasus economics. And I guess the last thing that I would really want to make clear is that magical Pegasus economics is about the future. And true, I mean, there are some problems with it. I mean, for example, these unemployment benefits that are being continued, there are no cuts in social programs to offset them. So that will contribute to the deficit. Not the tax cuts, just the unfunded unemployment benefits, because they're different. They're different in magical Pegasus economics. It's too hard to explain. So hopefully now that everybody understands, how magical Pegasus economics works, we can all, band together and wrestle all those, stupid liberals and progressives to the mat and make them vote with us and the Republicans, so that we can get the magical Pegasus economics that the rich and everyone else deserves. This has been Zach Elliott, and you can certainly feel free to argue.